Is Centipede Sprint 8 Take 3, so kept forgetting to mention things in the previous videos. So for last week, you said a score manager at a score shouldn't receive points as a parameter. I wasn't entirely sure what you meant by that, but I did try to implement the command pattern, but I spent way too long trying to figure it out. It's just 2 straight days of code that I ended up throwing out anyway, because I don't think I quite understood how the command pattern worked exactly. I'd love to revisit it, of course, since it'll make it more efficient, but I also should be learning those design patterns in the first place. But for right now, I'm leaving the score manager as I have it, because otherwise I'd take up too much time trying to fix that and leave not enough time for the other things. So the score manager it doesn't have an add score function where the score is passed through, but it does tell the player manager this is how much you should add. So I think that's what you were referencing. You said the spider scoring was incorrect and that I should reference the game info. I'm not entirely sure what that meant. I think you meant... Actually, I'm not sure. It is 300, 600, 900. I checked in the game. Those are the values. So if it's farther away, it's 300, medium 600, and close is 900. That's... If it's something else, I'll ask you in class about it, but I think those values should be correct. The wave data rating, it's still the lines, so it's not efficient. It will break, of course, if anything changes at all. But I tried a CSV and it wasn't working for me. I think there's a way to format this. Actually, I'm not entirely sure how any text file would be foolproof, unless I just have it default. And if it runs into an error, I just have it default to like a standard wave pattern. But that's kind of like an error case. But this is the same. So I do have Wave Manager fully implemented. So it just reads the current wave data from that text file. It gets the current player's current wave that it's on, and then based on that wave information, it does the spawning. So if there should be a scorpion, it'll spawn a scorpion with an alarm. If there should be, actually, the spiders are always spawning, so set the spider alarm based on the spawn rate. Set the centipede head based on the length of that it should be on the wave data. And then if there are solo heads, then spawn the solo heads too. I have a fake kind of attractor mode where there's an AI controller. It's super inefficient because I'm going to throw this out anyway. Like, I just wanted something super quick and it's just random movements. But this does inherit from my input manager, so I can swap between the two with my blaster. And you'll see the blaster here. It starts with the set control type AI. So scroll down here. It'll just set my controller to a new AI controller, and then when I swap, it'll switch it to a new keyboard controller. So I'll run this, and then it'll be like the AI movement, but it won't be in attractor mode, because with the attractor mode I tried to make it as a separate scene. But like you mentioned in class when I asked you about it, having singletons screwed up the scene switching. So everything works perfectly. The mushroom field swapped, it created a new blaster, new centipede, everything perfectly gameplay wise worked fine. The thing that didn't was that my values for my HUD were just crazy, or there's something like negative 58,000, and it was writing that score to my text file on some kind of integer overflow. So the HUD was the only thing really messing up in terms of the singletons with the scene switching. But I decided to scrap that because if it wasn't working, it wasn't really ideal to put forth the effort to try to fix. So I'm going to rework that attractor mode, but I'll run this here. So it goes out of bounds because I removed the clamp, so I can do this, but the centipede splitting does work finally, so I can split the centipede if I can get it to work. There we go. And then once the centipede is killed, the new one is spawned thanks to Wave Manager. There's no delay yet because I wanted this wave to just bounce quickly, so this is the second wave with one solo head. Sorry, second wave with one solo head and a 5-segment centipede. The previous was a 4-segment centipede, so it splits just fine. I'll kill all the noise. Second wave, of course, scorpions can spawn, so that's a 1 here. And then, of course, changing these values, as I showed last week, does reflect... The changes do get reflected on the Wave Manager right here, so that's good. I don't have the Sound Manager implemented, but I'm not entirely sure if I'll get around to that. Everything plays sound, even the attractor mode, which I don't have, of course, so maybe I should just work on the attractor mode before I try to get the sound working. The high scores you saw does get written to a text file. So it was 1500. So I mean, if I set this to something like 550, and then if I save it and then run this, it should be 550 at the top. So there you go. That's probably too fast. 550 at the top there, and then that change does get reflected. So if I can kill the spider, I'll show, but it does get updated since I showed that from last week already. Nothing changed. So 900, so it got updated in the game, but also if I go to the text file, oh, I had this open, whoops. 900, and then if I run the game again, it'll be 900 still. It's my high score. So that's good. So thankfully the big things this week are I do have a final game loop. Not final in terms of how I'm going to keep it, but it works and it's consistent. And they're at max 4 waves because that's all I have in my text file right now. So if it goes beyond that, it'll stay on wave 5. So there is progression, there is a game loop. The Centipede splitting hasn't caused any problems, it hasn't broken anything. So it's all working. I think those are the 2 major things that I needed to work on. The splitting, which was my top priority as you said, and the wave manager, so that's all good. And then the rest, I shouldn't be implementing new features, but I'll try to polish everything up and just get things to flow together well, and try to fix some of the things that are really inefficient in my code. But that's all for this sprint. Thank you.